Hi, Vitalik. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Raoul?
I'm great, thank you. What a day to speak to you with Ethereum at all-time highs and the whole cryptocurrency complex at all-time highs. Could you imagine when you first came up with this idea that you have dreamed up over $500 billion of value so far within the idea of smart contracts in the Ethereum ecosystem?
I mean, honestly, no. Well, like when I started it, I kind of expected it would be just this kind of tiny side project, and we'd get it done in a couple of months, and then I'd go back to university. Definitely did not expect this for Ethereum. I mean, did not expect this level of just size and attention for the crypto space in general.
How are you seeing the DeFi ecosystem develop?
Like, first of all, the DeFi ecosystem is definitely maturing. Just the fact that these projects are continuing to survive, and like obviously there's like a lot of the kind of ones around the edges that that get hacked from time to time. But if you just focus on like the core ones, like the ones that have existed for a few years, like the Maker, Uniswap, like all of the like ones that just people have been working on since the beginning, they're just continuing to be stable, continuing to do what people want them to do, continuing to just, grow and just provide the, whatever the functionality that people have been expecting of them. And I think trust in those platforms is just continuing to increase. And that by itself, I think, is just going to make people more and more comfortable over time in being able to rely on these platforms. So I think the trends that we're going to start seeing over the next few years is basically just more ongoing adoption, like more kinds of people using DeFi. The NFT space that we just had a panel about right before this, right? That's I think that's an interesting example of something that I've been talking about, like with regard to the crypto space for a long time, which is that like I don't think the future is financial or non-financial. I think it's kind of mixed financial. Like I think it's projects that are not just about money in nature, but that still benefit a lot from being directly plugged into this kind of massive value layer that we've created, with the kind of Ethereum and the greater crypto ecosystem.
A quick word from the sponsors of today's video, Upfire, who just released their product a few weeks ago. Upfire is a decentralized peer-to-peer platform that combines the powers of torrenting and cryptocurrency. The platform proposes an upgraded version of the existing BitTorrent protocol where users get mouth-watering rewards in crypto for seeding files on the platform. It's 100% decentralized and all files are encrypted as well. Further, whenever a seeded file is downloaded and decrypted, the uploader earns a piece of the transaction fees, so staking your UPR is encouraged. The Upfire mobile app is available on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux for everyone who wants to join this great community. The project releases product which took over 3 years to perfect on mainnet 3 weeks ago, so you're early to the party. Check out the link in the description to get started earning crypto for your files. There's some great events scheduled in the near future that will blow up activity.
Like, if you have an NFT, like buying and selling it requires an auction. That's smart contracts. Like if you buy it, you might be buying it with a coin. Often a coin is DAI, and DAI is itself created by a DeFi platform. So there's just like DeFi components that are being plugged in all over the place, right? And like Ethereum does not have a killer app; it has a killer ecosystem. Like the value comes from all of these different pieces that are able to talk to each other. So I expect that as we see more adoption, more work in NFTs, in say the blockchain gaming space, in a kind of quote the metaverse, as people start slowly figuring out what the heck that word actually means in the blockchain context. As people keep figuring out what DAOs are actually for, like all of these things are going to plug into financial layers of different kinds, right? And there's different kinds of financial layers. There's like the the decentralized exchanges. There's the stable coins. There's all of the different versions of all of those things. There's different kinds of markets. And as more of these new applications keep bringing in new users, I think we're going to just see all these basic building blocks just keep on kind of prospering, growing, stabilizing themselves. People will see more and more which parts of DeFi land are really here to stay, and the parts of DeFi land that are here to stay I think they really will be here to stay, and I think we're going to just see a lot of value kind of slowly and steadily coming out of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistakenly think of DeFi, as you say, as just this part of a financial system that's disintermediating the banks. But actually what's going on is it feels like there's an entirely new parallel financial system and economic system that's being built. It's a whole ecosystem. It's not just about finance. That value layer of the NFT space has been fascinating because it's kind of exploded, and it's very nascent right now because, we've got some of the leading projects with, CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club. People are kind of coalescing around these communities, but it feels like it's still very early with where NFTs are going. Where do you think they might be headed? Are we going to see intellectual property rights, all sorts of other things on NFTs, insurance contracts? How are you thinking this might develop?
I think it's, we're like NFTs in general, first of all, are like a really big category, right? Like the word just literally stands for non-fungible token. And so it literally just is like the entire subset of tokens where instead of a token that has many units that all represent the same thing, it's a token where each individual unit represents a different thing. That's big, right? Like pieces of art are NFTs, ENS domain names are NFTs. Items in video games are NFTs, like things in Loot Project are NFTs, right? So we're going to see many different kinds of NFTs. Some NFTs are going to represent things that are purely crypto native, so whose value basically only comes from people within the crypto space being willing to pay attention to them. And there's also going to be NFTs that represent assets that have some kind of legal power in the physical world. Intellectual property rights are one example. Real estate is another example. Just like we have stable coins, right? Like we have the algorithmic stable coins that are kind of purely crypto based. And then we also have USDC, institutionally backed crypto stable coins that are pointers to dollars that are being held in bank accounts. So, same with NFTs. We have NFTs that'll have their value entirely derived from things happening in crypto land, and we'll have NFTs that have value that come from kind of connections to existing legal property rights that we already have, but that maybe are currently not that efficient to kind of actually use in interesting ways and do things with.
And the element of composability around all of this allows there to be lending markets that build around these NFTs as well. So that's where we're starting to see lending markets developing around some of the artwork and other bits and pieces.
Yep.
And you can just see that all of these bits of the jigsaw are starting to build on top of each other at a ridiculous rate.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of different combinations that are really fun. Just to give a couple of examples, one is the concept of fractional ownership. You could see that being applied to NFTs. You could see that even be applied to NFTs representing real estate. You could see NFTs being linked together with DAOs. So think of something like a condominium association, right? If NFTs become real estate ownership, then a condominium association can just be a DAO. And, instead of it being governed through these boring, often pen and paper based 20th century processes, you can just have all the votes just happen through some contract on chain, right? So there's a lot of different ways to kind of connect each and every one of these components. And most of the interesting applications, I think, end up connecting different pieces together already.
Yeah, one of the things about tokenizing real estate that's super interesting to me is a lot of real estate that performs well is expensive, and most people can't participate. The moment you tokenize it, anybody can participate. Anybody can put 5% of their savings in a $100 million property. And that's
exactly.
It's an extraordinary change. And liquidity of real estate markets is going to change forever once this starts happening.
I mean, in real estate specifically, right? The non-fungibility of it is in many ways you can see it as as a source of just a huge number of problems, right? Because Like, if you live in a city today, you're either a homeowner, in which case you're just massively overexposed to one asset, or you're a renter, in which case you're negatively exposed to that asset. And you're even, like, you could say negatively exposed to, like, basically your community being a good place to live, right? So, like, giving people access to options that are kind of in between those two extremes on that spectrum, like partial ownership, some kind of system where ownership builds up over time, using crypto loans to be able to actually facilitate that. I think there's lots of opportunities for really cool things to happen there.